$20,000 motorcycles are now selling for 4. Not as clickbait, not as rumor, but as reality staring every rider in the face. Walk into a dealership today and you can smell it. Desperation. Rows of gleaming machines that once meant pride now sit under banners that scream clearance. Prices slashed so low even the salesman can't look you in the eye. You don't feel like you're walking into a showroom anymore. You feel like you've stumbled into an auction that never ends. What we're watching isn't a sale, it's a collapse. And it didn't come from one bad season or one bad model. It came from years of overbuilding, easy credit, and executives who thought riders would keep signing checks forever. Now the math has caught up. Bikes that used to be trophies are becoming liabilities, and every garage in America just lost a little bit of pride overnight. If you ride, your investment just turned into a warning light. Factories are choking on inventory, dealers are bleeding on floor plan interest, and buyers are vanishing faster than repo trucks can haul the debt away. This isn't a story about discounts. It's about an industry finally paying the price for believing its own hype, and about the riders stuck in the middle, watching the value of freedom drop with every tick of the market clock. Stay with me, because by the time you see what's happening behind those glass doors, you'll realize this crash isn't coming. It's already here. The price shock nobody saw coming. Walk into any dealership lot this month and you can smell the panic. Rows of gleaming cruisers that once demanded $20,000 checks now sit under banners screaming $4,000. Bikes that used to be bragging rights are being sold like clearance tools at a yard sale. It is not just one model or one brand. It is the entire upper tier of the market sliding downhill at a pace nobody believed possible. A man in Ohio listed his mint Harley Road Glide for $400 to $500 below what he paid 2 summers ago. Within hours, 6 similar listings appeared, each lower than the last. Auction lanes tell the same story. Chrome, once treated like bullion, now begging for bids. Even collector bikes, the ones that never lost value, are getting hammered as cash buyers hold back, waiting for the next drop. The shock is not just about money, it is about pride. For years, riders treated their machines as investments, trophies, and escape hatches. Now those same machines have turned into reminders of a market turned upside down. Online classifieds read like distress calls: must sell fast, need gone today, price firm, already losing thousands. In garages across America, men who once polished their tanks with pride stare at for sale signs and wonder how a 20-grand dream became a 4-grand warning. The disbelief is real, but it is only the beginning. But this drop didn't come out of nowhere. It started in the factory lines, from scarcity to surplus overnight. Only a year ago, riders were begging for allocation. Dealers bragged about waiting lists, and factories ran overtime to fill them. Then the switch flipped. Production never slowed, but demand vanished almost overnight. The same pandemic surge that emptied showrooms left companies addicted to output, and they kept building long after buyers had walked away. By mid-2025, assembly plants in the Midwest and Asia were still shipping containers of unsold motorcycles into a market already stuffed. Shipping yards filled with crated machines, their paint baking under tarps. Dealers called for relief, but corporate offices told them to push harder. When they could not, the overflow spilled into auctions and discount channels that now define the new normal. The pipeline jammed because the math was wrong. Executives expected the lifestyle boom to keep rolling as if cheap credit and stimulus checks would never end. They misread the rider base, older buyers aging out, younger ones strapped by rent and insurance. What looked like endless appetite was a temporary sugar high. Now the industry drowns in its own success. For every rider looking to buy, there are 10 bikes waiting for a home. The surplus has stripped away any illusion of rarity. Discounts that once seemed generous are now survival tools, and floor managers talk about sales in terms of days before storage fees eat the profit. Factories kept humming, but riders stopped listening. And when too many bikes chase too few riders, something far worse than low prices begins to break. When too many bikes chase too few riders, the next crack opens in the bank office. If you're seeing the same crash signs in your town, empty lots, desperate dealers, prices dropping overnight, hit that like button so more riders see this before it's too late. Drop a comment below and share what you're witnessing. The interest rate guillotine. Even the riders who still want to buy can't afford to. Interest rates have turned financing into a trap. 2 years ago, a 5% loan on a mid-range cruiser felt normal. Now the average motorcycle note clears 10% or higher. That difference turns a manageable payment into a monthly chokehold. A 36-month plan that used to mean $200 now pushes $400, and that math kills the sale before the handshake. Banks didn't mean to wreck the market. They were chasing inflation just like everyone else. But when borrowing doubled in cost, the hobby became a luxury few could justify. Riders stare at spreadsheets, not spec sheets. A man in Texas calculated that his new loan would cost more than the bike's depreciation over the same period. He walked away, and a dozen more like him followed. Dealers feel it immediately. Financing desks, once crowded with buyers, now echo in silence. Salesmen whisper about credit apps denied not for bad credit, but for interest fatigue. Even buyers with cash hesitate, waiting for lenders to blink first. The emotional connection that once drove motorcycle purchases has been replaced by spreadsheets and fear. And so the market freezes. Prices fall, but payments stay high. The dream sits behind glass, gathering dust while collectors wait for lenders to loosen up. The guillotine is invisible but merciless, each tick of the rate chart slicing away another potential sale. But while riders back off loans, dealers face a bleeding clock they can't stop. Dealers are dumping bikes. You should be upgrading your kit. Check the description for quality gear that won't wreck your budget. Dealers on the edge. Behind every row of unsold motorcycles lies a daily debt meter no customer ever sees. Dealers don't own those bikes outright. They borrow against them through what's called floor plan financing. Every machine on the lot accrues interest until it's sold, roughly $50 per day per unit. Multiply that by 50 bikes in 30 days, and you have $75,000 in silent drain each month. That's the math slowly killing local showrooms. Managers once bragged about having the biggest inventory in town. Now that pride feels like a noose. Each extra bike is another bill coming due, and the longer it sits, the deeper the hole. Some dealers quietly move stock at break-even just to stop the bleeding. Others ship excess inventory to auctions, where it joins hundreds of identical machines racing to the bottom. Walk behind the glass doors and you'll hear the tension. Finance reps whisper about skipped interest payments. Owners cut hours, cancel marketing, and beg manufacturers to pause shipments. But factories rarely stop. They judge success by units built, not sold. So dealers drown in metal, while corporate executives issue press releases about strong brand engagement. A veteran salesman in Arizona summed it up. We're paying rent on dreams nobody's buying. For small-town dealerships, it's existential. The bank doesn't care how good the chrome looks. It cares how long the VIN has been on the books. The shock started with prices, spread through production, and now lives in every dealer's ledger. It's no longer a rumor. It's a reckoning. And that's when corporate boardrooms start to sweat. The proof comes next. Harley's silent admission. Every market crash needs a signal, and this one came from the top. Harley-Davidson, the name that once defined American horsepower and pride, quietly confirmed what every mechanic and dealer already knew. The market is cracking. In its second quarter report for 2025, Harley admitted to weak retail numbers, higher inventory costs, and uncertain trade conditions. Behind those words sits a panic no press release can hide. For decades, Harley relied on its loyal base to weather every storm. Recessions, fuel spikes, foreign competition. But now, even those riders are holding tight to their cash. Executives called it a temporary softening. Insiders call it a collapse. Tariff shifts on imported components have squeezed margins. Financing arms once used to boost sales are now pulling back, raising credit standards to avoid defaults. The company that built its image on rugged independence is hedging its bets like a nervous banker. On investor calls, the tone is measured but shaky. Questions about future models get deflected toward cost discipline. Announcements of new factory projects come paired with regional reviews. Translation: Harley is shrinking to survive. In Milwaukee, suppliers whisper about fewer purchase orders and delayed payments. Even flagship dealerships report slower traffic, not just in the showroom, but in the service bays. When maintenance dries up, confidence is gone. What started as cautious language on paper has become an unspoken confession on the ground. Harley blinked first and everyone noticed. But balance sheets aren't the only warning. Walk through the repo yard, repo lots filling up. Drive past the auction yards and you'll see a sight that used to belong to hard times. Rows of repossessed motorcycles lined up like soldiers waiting to be shipped off to new owners. Finance companies call it inventory recovery, but the meaning is plain. People can't keep up with payments. Lenders that once bragged about record approvals are now cutting exposure, and the numbers behind those gates tell the real story. National auction data shows a surge in recovered motorcycles during the first half of 2025. Dealer sources estimate repos up more than 30% year over year. Banks that financed premium cruisers during the pandemic boom are now hauling them back at record pace. These aren't neglected junkers, they're nearly new machines, some with under 5,000 miles, victims of rising rates and shrinking wallets. Inside the finance offices, the tone has changed. Where managers once celebrated growth opportunities, they now warn of delinquency control. Buyers late by 60 days are contacted daily, but extensions are rare. Many lenders discovered that once a bike leaves the garage, it's rarely recovered in perfect condition, so repos add another layer of loss. At wholesale auctions, bidding floors fall silent as banks try to unload too many units at once. Dealers cherry-pick the cheapest examples, but most stock piles up, forcing discounts on top of discounts. This glut feeds directly back into the used market, crushing prices even further. The repo yard has become the truest reflection of the crash. Cold metal, fading stickers, and silent alarms. And when lenders flinch, the average buyer disappears next. The buyer that vanished. The mystery isn't why prices fell, it's who stopped showing up. For the first time in decades, motorcycle buyers are disappearing faster than manufacturers can adjust. The median buyer age has climbed into the mid-50s, while younger riders delay purchases indefinitely. Once, a new bike symbolized freedom. Now it represents another monthly payment in an economy that already feels stacked against them. Inflation isn't just raising prices, it's reshaping priorities. Rent, groceries, and insurance eat away at what used to be discretionary cash. Millennials and Gen Z riders, once seen as the next big growth wave, are turning instead to used models, side hustles, or even e-bikes to fill the gap. Dealers feel the silence on weekends that used to be buzzing with test rides. A salesman in Tennessee says he used to close 10 units every Saturday. Now he celebrates 3. People still love the bikes, he admits. They just can't justify the payment. That emotional conflict, desire versus reality, defines the new market. Social media still glows with photos of chrome and open roads, but behind the filters, wallets are empty. Older buyers, who once anchored premium sales, are aging out of the lifestyle or selling off collections. Their departure leaves a hole no flashy marketing campaign can fill. Without fresh blood, the culture stalls. The buyer didn't vanish by choice. He was priced out, aged out, and timed out. Yet not every category crashed. Some bikes still hang on, for now. The segment divide. Every collapse has survivors, and this one's no different. While heavyweight cruisers tumble, sport bikes and adventure tourers are holding their ground. It's not loyalty, it's math. Riders chasing performance or versatility are spending cautiously but consistently. Smaller engines, lower price tags, and simpler tech make these bikes practical at a time when big twins feel like bad bets. Industry data shows used market indexes for cruisers down more than 20% year over year. while sport bike prices slipped only single digits. Adventure bikes, once niche, have carved out new space as the do-it-all option, efficient, rugged, and repairable. Dealers who pivoted toward these models last season are now breathing easier. They aren't making huge profits, but they're not bleeding like their cruiser-heavy neighbors. This divide exposes something deeper about rider behavior. The motorcycle has split into two worlds, passion and pragmatism. One is emotional, big engines, chrome, heritage. The other is logical, mileage, function, range. As wallets tighten, logic wins. Manufacturers who can't shift fast enough are left behind, trapped by the very image that once made them great. For the first time, the icons of American riding are losing ground to machines built for endurance instead of image. The culture is changing one model at a time, and the numbers prove it. But stats don't show what it's doing to riders' pride. That's where the real fallout begins. Overbuild and oversell. The numbers don't lie. Production went up 20% while retail sales fell 10% year over year. That imbalance didn't happen by accident. It came from arrogance. Factory floors kept humming long after demand had cooled, driven by executives addicted to volume. They believed the pandemic boom was a permanent new normal. They bet that every rider would keep upgrading forever. They were wrong. The result was warehouses stuffed with machines no one asked for. Dealers begged for breathing room, but corporate offices pushed harder, calling the oversupply inventory strength. Containers of unsold motorcycles sat stacked in ports, waiting for dealers who no longer wanted them. The language of growth became a disguise for panic. Manufacturers didn't just overbuild, they oversold the dream. They flooded media with slogans about freedom, tradition, and technology, while ignoring the empty parking lots outside their plants. It was the kind of blindness that happens when success turns into religion. Executives read rising output as proof of loyalty, not evidence of saturation. Now, the overbuild haunts every level of the market. Mechanics have work, but not enough customers. Dealers have bikes, but not enough buyers. Riders have choices, but no confidence. The chain broke from the inside out, and when the warehouses overflow, the showroom turns into a theater of desperation. Discount theater. Walk through a showroom today, and you'll see the performance playing out. Salesmen polish chrome, crank up rock music, and pretend nothing's wrong. But the real show happens in the back office, where panic hides behind paperwork. Aged 50INs, bikes sitting unsold for 120 days or more, are now liquidated below cost. Managers disguise the losses under factory incentives or demo adjustments, but the truth is simple. They're bleeding. To move units, dealers pull every lever. Fake fees vanish overnight. Setup charges quietly disappear. Extended warranties suddenly become included. What used to be a game of upsells has turned into a race to the bottom. Some stores run weekend event sales that look festive on social media but end in tears when the spreadsheets come out Monday morning. It's not greed anymore, it's survival. Sales staff whisper about commissions cut in half, bonuses canceled, and inventory bonuses that may never be paid. The same executives who demanded record shipments now scold their own teams for not moving product. The disconnect between factory and floor has never been wider. But numbers and tricks can't hide the deeper wound. To riders, it feels personal. If this breakdown opened your eyes, hit subscribe right now. The next wave of this motorcycle market collapse is already forming, and when it hits, you'll want to know before anyone else. Stay sharp, stay subscribed, and keep riding smart. When the badge stops shining. For generations, owning a Harley wasn't just about transportation, it was about belonging. That badge on the tank meant pride, history, and brotherhood. But today, the same emblem that once drew respect now sparks uneasy looks. The resale gap on used Harleys has widened 35% over the last 12 months, turning once premium machines into financial anchors. The emotional toll runs deep. Riders who finance their dream bikes at top-of-market prices Now watch them lose value faster than they can pay down the loans. For men who saw their Harleys as trophies of hard work, the numbers feel like betrayal. Parking lots once filled with chrome and leather now hold silent machines waiting for buyers that never come. The culture that built an empire is learning how fragile pride can be when the balance sheet turns red. And it's not just about money, it's about identity. In small towns, the bike in your driveway used to define you. Now it raises questions. Couldn't you sell it? Still paying on that? The quiet shame creeps in. What was once a source of freedom now feels like a bill collector on wheels. Mechanics say the work is steady, clutch jobs, oil changes, warranty claims. But riders are riding less. The passion that powered generations is fading under the weight of debt. Still, in every collapse, a few survivors learn to profit from the wreckage. Winners in the rubble. Every crisis creates opportunity, and the motorcycle crash is no different. Cash buyers are suddenly kings. With prices bottoming out, they stroll through dealerships armed with leverage no one imagined 2 years ago. Bikes that once required financing now go home for less than a used car. Liquidators report inventory turning 30% faster on sub-$5,000 units than on premium stock. The market that once worshipped luxury now rewards liquidity. Flippers are back too, snatching up undervalued models, cleaning them, and reselling at modest margins. It's not greed, it's instinct. These small operators understand cycles. When others panic, they buy. When others boast recovery, they sell. A new generation of backyard traders is rising, powered by cash, common sense, and pickup trucks. Smaller import brands are also winning. With global supply chains open and low-cost parts flowing, they can sell reliable, efficient bikes at prices the big names can't match. Riders burned by high payments and repair costs are giving them a chance. A motorcycle once mocked as cheap now looks smart, honest, and practical. The wreckage is real, but so is the renewal. For every rider who loses, another finds a way to keep the wheels turning. Yet these small wins exist inside a bigger storm of politics and global rivalry. Policy whiplash. Every time the motorcycle market starts to catch its breath, Washington jerks the wheel. Tariffs, tax credits, and import rules change faster than companies can update their spreadsheets. One quarter, imported bikes get a $7,500 incentive. The next, that credit vanishes for models built in the wrong region. The 2025 revisions alone added an average of $1,200 per imported unit. That swing can turn a profit into a loss overnight. Manufacturers build forecasts around stability, but politicians treat policy like poker chips. A senator promises to protect domestic brands, while another proposes a clean energy tariff that punishes the same factories they claim to save. Dealers never know which way the rules will tilt, so they stock cautiously. Riders pay the price when uncertainty ripples through every invoice. The confusion filters down to the sales floor. One buyer gets a rebate on Monday, another pays full freight by Friday because a bill stalled in committee. It's not free enterprise, it's chaos disguised as regulation. Economists call it policy noise. Riders call it nonsense. As governments chase headlines, the market bleeds predictability. And when predictability dies, confidence follows. People can live with high prices, but they can't plan around constant reversals. The motorcycle market doesn't need handouts, it needs consistency. While politicians argue factory workers are quietly rewriting the power balance, labor's leverage. On the factory floor, the noise is different. It's the rhythm of machines stopping and starting as workers test their leverage. For years, the men and women who built America's bikes watched executives rake in bonuses while shifts shortened and benefits shrank. Now, the slowdown in demand has given labor a new kind of power. When production stalls, every hand on that line matters. In June of 2025, a 2-week work stoppage at one Midwestern plant cost tens of millions in lost output. Management expected panic. Instead, they found solidarity. Workers demanded guarantees. No more layoffs disguised as temporary pauses. No more reduced health care under efficiency measures. The message was blunt. If you want bikes, treat the builders like assets, not expenses. Executives, once unshakable, now whisper about collaborative productivity, a polite term for surrender. They know the line won't move unless the workforce believes in the future again. The struggle is tense, but it's awakening something the industry forgot: pride in making, not just marketing. And as domestic plants pause, foreign rivals see their opening. Global rivals move in. While American factories wrestle with slowdowns and strikes, new contenders are rolling quietly onto the global stage. In China and India, mid-sized motorcycles priced under $6,000 are being produced with ruthless efficiency. Their average production cost sits more than 30% below that of US brands, and their volume keeps climbing. The numbers are brutal: cheaper labor, integrated supply chains, and governments that reward scale instead of speeches. Companies like BYD Motors, Hero Motocorp, and CF Moto are not chasing prestige, they're chasing reach. They build durable, low-cost machines that appeal to the exact middle of the market. American brands are losing. They don't need chrome or nostalgia. They sell simplicity and value. And in an age where wallets matter more than badges, value wins. These rivals don't just threaten exports, they reshape expectations. Riders in Latin America, Africa, and Southeast Asia are already buying these bikes in record numbers. Once tariffs shift, those same models will flood Western markets. A $5,000 400cc machine that runs forever is a hard offer to beat. For the first time, America risks losing not just sales, but identity. The world that once looked west for innovation now builds its own future. If domestic brands can't adapt to leaner models and faster supply, the global race won't just leave them behind, it'll bury them. So where does that leave the American rider trying to survive the crash? The rider's playbook. In chaos, knowledge is power. Riders who understand the game can turn the crash into an advantage. The rule of 90 days is the first weapon. Once a bike sits that long on a lot, every extra day costs the dealer roughly $50. That means negotiation power. A buyer who walks in with cash and patience can save between $5,000 and $10,000 on a mid-range cruiser without breaking a sweat. The second weapon is timing. The last week of the month, especially at quarter's end, is when managers are desperate to clear quotas. Bring proof of competitor listings, and you control the conversation. Don't get distracted by talk of limited time incentives. The only limit is how long the bike has been aging on their books. The third weapon is focus. Forget new models for now. Used bikes under $5,000 are the sweet spot. They've already taken the depreciation hit, and financing on small sums avoids the interest rate guillotine. Riders who buy smart now will be positioned to sell later when the market rebounds. Most of all, stay grounded. The crash feels like betrayal, but it's really a correction. The machines themselves haven't changed. The hype around them did. Keep riding, keep maintaining, and keep learning the numbers. The industry may be shaken, but the culture belongs to those who endure. I told you this wasn't a sale, it's a collapse. You've seen the prices, the panic, and the cracks inside every dealership. But the story isn't over, and what comes next could decide who rides and who walks. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, hit subscribe right now.